rather have a Christian go out there and give any answer than no answer at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think without getting in too much into the I don't identify myself as Reformed, but I have been heavily influenced by Reformed theology, as they call it, and it has a very, very black and white, very stark view of most gospel issues. And if we ever do get down, or when I get down with Elliot to the Catholic Protestant differences, that's where this really comes out. But for now, I would more angle towards, I would rather give what I believe is an internally consistent answer to the question and have the person reject the entire message of the gospel because of their unwillingness to embrace all of the tenets that underlie the gospel, because ultimately there's nothing you can do to make a person accept the gospel. It's an offensive message, and it's going to divide people between those who accept and those who reject. And that may be sometimes because of their own emotional and personal investment in not believing. And I think we basically agree on that point, right?
I could hear the Reformed come through in your phraseology. I could hear it stepping in. I would say no. I think I don't necessarily agree with everything there. I would say that well, firstly, the thing I'd say is that the Catholic Church is very supportive of science insofar as science is true, because God is the author of truth, and two truths can't conflict because their origin, both of them, is God, right? So we would look at the scientists and say, if you found truth, that is good. It can't conflict with the truth of the gospel and the truth of God. That would be an impossibility. I would also say that I forgot what I was going to say. We can edit this out, so I'm going to think for a second.
That's fine. Yeah,
I had a really freaking cool point, and it just ran away. Oh yeah. Okay, 3. All right, you count off.
3, 2, 1.
I would also say that I don't necessarily believe that people reject the gospel necessarily because of any personal depravity, even though that's a component. I would say that all creation waits with like we read in Scripture, with the deep yearning, more powerful than words, for the revelation of the good news. They just might not know that Christ is the fulfillment of that yearning, right? And so I'd say that they might reject the gospel because you or I, as failed human beings, are not presenting it in a coherent, good way. And I see the idea that the first 11 chapters of Genesis needing to be taken literally in order to present the gospel. I think that is I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I think that's a very dreadful way to do Christian apologetics, because I think the gospel will be fine. And I think I disagree with the supposition that any sort of worldview that admits anything to the scientific community is inherently incoherent with the gospel. I think actually they dovetail very nicely, but I think you only need to know enough to be able to defend the gospel, and then everything else you can kind of lift up your hands and say, that is a field of study that of course is related to God, because God is the author of all, but it's unrelated to our current conversation and irrelevant to the actual spiritual benefits that the gospel may contain.
So are we basically, is this kind of like in the issue of, and I'm not obviously going into the issue of justification, but I did kind of notice a parallel here where when it comes to justification, Catholics and Protestants both have the same idea and the same end point in mind, and radically disagree on the means by which you arrive at that end point. Is that a good thumbnail summary?
Yeah, it's also, I think, important to maybe it's the methodology is an important, subset of this.